So good. You met me earlier, but you haven't met the best half of me, the best part of me. Maybe you have, but if not, this is Sue Schlesman, my incredible wife. I brought in the big guns today. Not only is she my wife, she's also an award-winning author now. So she won. Her book won Book of the Year and in 2025, so that just got announced last weekend. Super excited for her and what God's doing. You know, we've been in a series called Engage, and what it looks like to engage in service, and what it looks like to engage in what God's doing and join Him at work. And so in each week we've been looking at that. Last week we took a look at what Jesus and how He announced that service with all authority, and when that came to Him, that He began to serve His own followers, and then that would begin the example and the stamp on each one of us. So whether you're here or and you're like, you know what, I'm not sure I'm ready, I'm not sure I'm able to serve. I know that sometimes there's just easy yeses in life, and that's what we want to talk to you about today. We want to talk to you today about what's your next yes. Now, my easy yes is sitting next to me. Okay. It was an easy yes. But there are easy yeses in life sometimes, right? Do you have any or not?
Yes, I have many easy yeses. So from the time that I was little, yes, I want to be a writer. Yes, I want Jesus. Yes, I want to have kids, get married and have kids. And then eventually it was Him. And it was a progressive yes, but it was a yes. It was a definite yes, but Now, if I would have been wearing my cowboy boots and my hat from last week,
then
definite yes. Like the hat, yeah. I found out that I like cowboy Shane. That was a lot of fun. But I almost brought my hat in, but I thought, well, that's a little overusing the metaphor. But anyway. Yes, I want you to publish my books. Yes, I want to go shopping for more clothes that I don't need. Yes, I will redecorate the house. Those are all easy yeses.
Yeah.
And the biggest easy yes,
yeah.
You know what I'm thinking? When we get a phone call, yes,
always know what you're thinking.
And our son says, hey, would you guys like to watch Eden tonight?
Yes.
We're immediately calling. I'm sorry, we have to change our plans tonight. Something has come up. If that happens to you, you can assume that it's Eden.
Sorry.
And,
yeah, that's our granddaughter, and she's the highest easy yes for sure. And some yeses aren't as easy. There's some yeses that we've had to process. And
work yeses are hard sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes different businesses that I've led, and different business decisions, and going into ministry full time, and that they're easy yeses, but sometimes it's a hard process of what that looks like. And so we want to spend some time in Scripture today and just really unpack, how do we make sometimes maybe the hard yeses easy yeses? How do we know what our next yes is? How do we do that? So we're going to look in Ephesians chapter 4, and if you have a device or you have something, a Bible, and you want to look in that, Ephesians chapter 4, we're going to be in there most of the time and just unpack some things from that passage of Scripture today, and we'll also put it on the screen for you.
Ephesians 4, 1 through 6. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. There's a lot in that we could unpack for about an hour, but we won't. But I think one of the things that pops out to me about this passage in the series that we're talking about is how many times Paul, who's speaking to the church, he's not writing to a bunch of pastors or a bunch of ordained ministers or what, he's writing to a church of people who have just received the Lord, and he says, you were called to a life of service. There's a calling on your life, and God's not trying to hide it. But
that's really the first thing we want to talk to you about, actually.
there you go. Okay, that was my segue.
There are three things, actually, we want to pull from this passage today. So if you're taking notes, if you're a note taker, or you're writing something in your phone, or you just like to know, hey, I'd like to know, like, when you guys are done. Can I get a scale of that? Because, that way I'll know later in the service, like, am I turning my car on or not with this special app or whatever you got going on. But here's the 3 points. The first one is called to service. We're called to service. Number 2, we're equipped for ministry. And number 3, built for growth. So we want to unpack each one of these. And the first one is that you're called. I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And some of those easy yeses are about, like, God calls me, I know it, he spoke, it's easy, it's clear. And some of those harder yeses are a process, like, where I'm like, man, how many of you know what it's like, if you've been following Jesus for a while, to be listening for God for something for a long time? And you're like, God, this would be an easy yes for me. Why it's not an easy yes for you? Okay, if you said this, then I'd be like, okay, I'd be all in. I'd be like, yes, just say it already. And that's why we have to learn. And there's a part of life and growing in our walk with God to learn to listen. To learn what it is to have God listen. We're so grateful for the opportunities that we've had to wrestle with some decisions or wrestle with what's next. Scripture says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him. And then what will he do? Direct your entire future and declare everything that's out. Just one step at a time, right? So learning to hear what God is saying and when he's saying it is so important. But that process, and that's how, when we go through that wrestling or the process, it can be an easy yes, but a hard process. It can be an easy yes but a hard calling. Sometimes that's true. There could be a season in your life that is hard. Like, God, how could you have said yes to this? How could you have called me to this? This is so hard. Like, Mom, why do you make me do all this stuff? This is too hard.
Yeah, so if we think about God as our Father, right, who's calling us to participate in what he's doing, it's a lot like a normal family. Spiritual family is a lot like a regular family. I think that's why God uses the family as a motif through the whole Bible, because we get that. Your parents make you do chores. We made our kids do chores. I didn't give them an option. Would you like to clean the bathroom, or would you like to go play airsoft? It's not an option. You're going to clean the bathroom before you play airsoft. It's very simple. We know that's a life lesson of building responsibility.
If you don't know what
right?
airsoft is, keep your children away from it.
Do they even do that anymore? I don't know. Wear goggles. We found, we had a
raised
couple
kids
near
a long
misses,
time ago.
but
I'm just saying.
We almost the kids
There's
almost
a little
blinded a
disclaimer.
babysitter one time. But anyway.
Just said that on camera, live. Okay, sorry.
Well, she didn't have the goggles on. Anyway, it's okay. So here's the thing about chores. Yes, it's building responsibility. It's learning to work before you play. It's all of those things. It's learning to obey. But there's also this aspect of we're a family together, and we do the work together, right? I'm not going to pay you to make your bed and clean up your clothes. You're part of the family. I'm not the maid, right? I know you think I am, but I'm not. So I will go and re-clean. We had 3 boys and 4 bathrooms in the house that they were growing up with, and so each of them had a bathroom they had to clean every week. They were messing up the bathrooms, so I felt like it was responsible for them to clean the bathrooms. And they did not do a great job. So sometimes I'd go back in and, tidy it up when they're done. But I didn't do that in front of them because I wanted them to know it was their responsibility. They probably thought they were great cleaners. But anyway, they learned to clean bathrooms because you're a part of the family. I'm not paying you to do something that you should participate in doing. right? And this is very similar to the family of God. We are all family, so we don't leave the work to the paid people, right? It's our family, it's our church, it's our responsibility. This is what Paul's talking about. Live a life worthy of the calling to which you were called. All of you are called to this. So pick up a sponge, pick up a broom, start working. And there's an aspect to working together. We notice this with the kids, right? If you send them out to pick up sticks and leaves and mulch and edge, and it's not good. But if you go with them and you're laboring together, you're raking leaves for a whole Saturday together, and they're jumping in the leaves, and you're bagging the leaves, or you're dragging or whatever. It's not so much that necessarily the work is fun, but the doing it together becomes fun, and it becomes a part of your family dynamic, that we work together, we play together, we live together, we're responsible together. The same is true in church, right? If we are doing the ministry in fellowship and relationship with one another, it's exciting to do the ministry. It's not like, oh man, we got to go out and witness to homeless people. It's exciting to do it together because we see God show up, right? And so I guess it's probably, you want to do John 5:19, but I got off on a tangent. Yeah, I think there's an important perspective that we take about service. Service isn't work to work. Service is a demonstration of love and belonging. And when your children catch that when they're little, it stays with them, and it makes the teenage years a little bit easier when they don't want to do anything. But go ahead.
I think you're right. John 5:19 would fit perfectly here. This is what it says. Jesus gave them this answer. Very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing. Whatever the Father does, the Son also does. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a daughter or a son. That's how God's speaking of you today. It happened to be that I had 3 sons. And I remember those days, like when I was mowing the grass and they wanted to mow the grass.
When they were toddlers, they had the little plastic mower.
Season.
They would follow him around the yard however long it took.
Yeah.
We're having devotions, and the toddler's sitting on the other couch with his toddler Bible that he can't read, but he's pretending to read because I'm reading. Like, when they're little, they want to do what you're doing, right?
Yeah. And they went to work. We did the go to work days with Dad, and each kid, that was like they couldn't wait, like when was going to be their turn, and then
dressed up in a little suit and a little tie.
And then in the church, because like from the time they were in car seats, we were serving at church. We helped plant a church with Dave and Amy when our kids were like, we needed childcare for setup team because we were like there at 7 a.m. with a truck and unload. If you ever started a church, you walk into a room and there's nothing in there, and then you got to like bring everything that you, anyway. So it's a lot, and it starts early in the morning and it ends late at night. But our kids watched all of this, and it wasn't like this is mom and dad's thing. This was our thing. Like, this is what we saw. I love some of you. I love seeing Lift Up RVA was so cool, right? We got to see some families serving together.
The kids are great.
And that's challenging. Just like it is challenging at home when you say, hey, and your son or daughter wants to help. It's like, well, now you've just made twice as much work, okay? But building and instilling that and growing that it's like that's a joy for a parent, but how much more for God as our Heavenly Father to have his family joining him. See, this isn't this isn't a spectator thing.
And I would just add in joining him at his work.
Yes.
Which is where the obedience, which we're going to get to, the obedience piece comes in. It's not like we're working and we're asking the kids, what would you like to do around the house today? And we're drawing on the walls, or whatever. Like, we're doing what God's already decided needs to be done, and we're joining him at work. And so that's an aspect of servanthood. Go ahead.
No, and I think that's so real because when even our kids, like we go on missions trips, or we would take them to serving with us when we started in this church 25 years ago.
Yeah, the first family life mission trip where you could take your kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. But I mean, I went on our first mission. I wasn't on staff. Just like you, I said the thing, and our oldest came with me on the very first missions trip.
On an adult trip. He was the only kid on it.
Yeah, he was the only one, and it was pretty cool. He had to be at a certain age, and we went through a process here that the church had, and we served. I ran sound in the back, and I was involved in the young adult ministry. We were involved in campus ministry, and our kids went where they were involved with all of it. Mm-hmm. Like the college students groups that we led, they were like another set of parents and a
they
part
were
of
a good diversion, actually, a lot of times. For the college students.
They were
actually, that's how we got video games in our house. Which maybe was a bad decision, but the college students wanted to play, and so the kids would play with them, and Brady was like one, and we would fake him out because he didn't know, like he had a little controller with the cord, and we just tucked it in the back because there's no more, there were only like 2 spots, and it took about 2 years before he realized, hey, wait a minute. I don't think I'm actually playing this game.
No, they'd be like, no, you're car number 3. Look, that's awesome.
Look at what you're doing.
Yeah. But it isn't just fun and games sometimes. Sometimes it is joining God at whatever this hard thing is and what's next. And we have to know what that obedience line is.
Yeah, and so I think the obedience piece then becomes obvious. So I just thought of, we had a young woman come and live with us. She had been living in her car, and she had many, many issues. And I brought her home to stay, and then we cleaned out, I think we cleaned out Brady's room. I don't know. We cleaned out a room and a closet and gave her space to live. And the kids were participating in this really complicated relationship that kept getting more and more complicated because as she felt safe, she was unpacking, more of the stuff. And it was messy and it was volatile. And the kids get to see what love looks like, because love is not a feeling, it's a choice, right? This is what ministry looks like. I'm choosing to love someone that is at this moment extremely unlovable and ungrateful, but because God has called us to do this thing. We didn't do it so we'd feel good about ourselves, right? It was a specific take her home, let her stay, right? So when you're listening to God's voice, then you hear it when it comes, and then it becomes undeniable. No matter how hard this thing is that you have to do, like, well, now I'm disobedient if I don't do it, right? So we do it. And then that's where the work comes in and where the equipping comes in, because our next yes is an opportunity that God's giving us to follow him. And he's not upset with us if we don't, if we say no, if we back away, because of course we're scared. That's always the reason we say no to God. We're scared about how this thing is going to turn out. But he doesn't let us go. He'll bring that option around again at some point in the future. Like, you didn't learn this lesson? All right, I got all the time in the world. I created time. So let's just try this again next year. We'll try this again in this next job. You quit this job because you didn't want to deal with it. Now you have another job. Well, guess what? Same lesson. We're going to work on it at this next place. We're going to work on it in this next marriage. We're going to work on it in this next town. We're going to work on it in this next church congregation, because God never lets us go, because that's who he is. He loves us, and he wants to equip us for ministry. And if we're equipped for ministry, we can't ignore the yeses that we're supposed to say, right? We can't ignore the responses we're supposed to give.
And this is so funny, because she always tells me before we speak, she's like, you got to handle all the transitions, because I don't do transitions. And you've done 2 of them now. You're doing really well. Yeah, I think so.
That's because your notes are so sparse. I never know what's happening.
You have full notes. Look at the book over here.
I know, and I can't read. I can't read it.
And highlights and little things.
I left out a really good verse.
Stay away from my notes. My notes are just an outline. Just stay away. Keep on your own notes.
I forgot 2 things. Do you want me to go back and do this?
No.
We're out of time. Okay.
You transitioned us. You said once a transition. I'm just saying. No, of course you can. But let me just say this. You can do whatever you want. But
that's a good answer.
As we equip, We're not only called, that's the second thing, we're equipped. And each one of those things, by the way, our children became equipped to serve God as they served with us, because it wasn't just they were tag-alongs. You heard me pray it over our parents today, right? Hey, you guys aren't just natural parents. You're spiritual parents. And maybe you'll be like, well, I wish I had that, or I wish I grew up that way, or I wish I had a mate that was also a spiritual parent, or I wish I had children, or I wish and here's the whole point of it. Isn't actually a family dynamic. We've used that illustration, but the whole point of this passage, who Paul is writing to, is the family of God. That you're in a family, so you are called. But also, verse 7, but to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. You know, if you're a parent, or you had siblings growing up, you know that each one of you are different. How unique is this church? You looked at how diverse all our parents are. All of them come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different. By the way, that's what the family of God is supposed to look at. If you didn't know like that, that's why we worship now. We're practicing for heaven one day, because we're all going to be together. Doesn't matter, all cultures, all generations. We're all going to be together. That's what the family of God looks like. You know what? And one parent may be making decisions differently than another parent. They may have different sets of things. But all of us serve the same thing. And God gives us grace as he apportions that out to each person for whatever role he has. So as the kids got older, it wasn't just about, okay, do what we're doing. It was, hey, you're the family of God. You're not the future of the church one day. You are the church. We look at our young people, who a lot of them sit over here. You know what? That thing would be entirely full. That entire wing is full if all our young people in the city. You know where they are right now? Serving. They're serving. They serve through this church because they're not the future of the church. They are the church. And so this starts to take mold, not just, and you can see it in a biological family dynamic, but you see it even greater in a spiritual family. Because listen to what Jesus said. So, and by the way, he gives grace a portion, and verse 8, 9, and 10 say why he has authority to do so, because he has authority over heaven, authority over earth, and he went to the depths of hell to make sure he had authority over the devil. So if you think the devil can stop you from doing this in the family of God, Jesus says, no, I got it. I'm calling you. You're like, well, I got to pass. I got to think. You know, Jesus already has authority over the enemy. He has authority over all things. And so he gives grace to each of us in each season of our calling. And then he equips us, but he equips us all differently. Listen to what he says in verse 11. So Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, the teachers, to do what? To be the paid staff of churches, to do all the work of the churches so that we can come and enjoy a great service. No, to equip us for service, it says in verse 12, to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up. That word service is this idea, diakonia. It is a word of service that actually is someone who takes a command. It's a word of obedience. That I've been given an assignment. I've been given something, and I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I got it. Yes, ma'am, I got it. This is a word of obedience where I come in, and to those who execute the commands of others, literally is what the word means. And then it says, for what? What am I obeying in service to do? So that, here's why. Here's why you serve. So that the body, God calls not just the family of God, he calls us as the church his body, of which he is the head. So the head of the body has graciously given you a certain role within that body, given all of us certain roles within that body. And for all of us, we step into that. And why? To build up. Okay? The Greek word is to edify, the act of promoting others' growth in Christian wisdom, piety, happiness, holiness. This is an art, this is a work, this is a commitment to build up the faith of others. That's why we do what we do. And that's why we walk in spiritual family. And serving is synonymous with family. Because this is how the body is built up. Now, we've been through lots of seasons of serving. I've told you, we served for 25 years, we've been serving in this church, different roles. We weren't always on staff. Sue was on staff before me, actually, and then she went off staff as I came on staff, and then she'd been off all the way until just the other year when she stepped into our discipleship role and stepped into walking and restructured some things and did some amazing, walked with us. But we just serve wherever God's calling is and where he's equipping us for the season he's equipped us to serve. Because we wrestle with God to give us your next yes. Because here's the other more important thing about calling and equipping. The only one who can give you the yes, the only one who can give you the calling is God. You know why that's important? It's not just important for the calling to come into whatever role. It's because he is the one who can say it's time to end that role, or it's time to end that season. Or it's not just tired when you're tired, right? Okay, it's not just I'm exhausted and I'm tired and you know what? No, there's still chairs to be set up. There's still whatever. Or, you know, I've been doing this long enough, or I've been doing it. No, it's God gives me the yes. I give him the yes. And then we build the body together. And then he gifts me. He gives me certain gifts to use. And you know what? Throughout different seasons, we do it all the time in connections. In fact, I think today is that week 3 today?
It's week 4, so we go over.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about spiritual gifts today in our connections. If you don't know what that is, Sue and I personally walk with a group of people who are saying, I know what my next yes is. In fact, I think I'm starting a new spiritual chapter. I've said yes to God. I've come back to God. We walked in. And so we process with them. Here's how you find your gifting, how God's gifted you, okay? But also we process, sometimes there's just a need, right? You know, I don't need to be gifted to take out the trash. But Sue somehow lets me do it sometimes. She's so gracious that way. She's so gracious to let me do some things. And you know, and you don't need to be gifted sometimes to do stuff, right? Just do it. It's a need. So serving where there's a need, but also asking God, hey, where have you gifted me for this season is important as well in my next yes.
So let's look at the verse 13 of this passage. So if remember, verse 11 and 12 said, Christ gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, pastors, and teachers to equip the people for works of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. That's the why. For how long? Right? Because, you know, we all get bored or frustrated serving. Nobody knows, nobody cares, nobody participates, it doesn't go well, whatever. For how long? Verse 13, until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. That's going to take a long time. Until we reach unity, can't have unity if you're not humble, can't serve if you're not humble. And this is a really good litmus test for why I want to participate in this particular area. Because I'm so good at it, they really need me. Or God said, there's a hole here, I want you to plug it, and I'll tell you when you're done. Like that's a different way to approach serving. Okay, so humility is absolutely necessary, and obedience is necessary, which we talked about, and these are ingredients for maturity. So maturity here, become mature, this is a Greek word for perfection. Well, I'm never gonna be perfect. I'm a human being. God, you know that. That's why I had to get saved in the first place. This is the spiritual journey. This is discipleship, because for the rest of our lives, God is perfecting us to become more like him, which until we die and go into glory, that's when we'll look just like him. But in the process, until that happens, we're in a process of maturing and growing more perfect. We're becoming the image of his son, right? That is the spiritual journey. It's like our own children. They're always growing and maturing. And if you're a parent of older kids, you notice that, you know what? I'm always watching, I think Irma Bombeck said this, I'm always watching for signs of improvement. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. I love them how they are. But I'm excited to see every new chapter, right? Every new bit of maturity, the way they make decisions, how it changes, how they keep getting wiser and smarter. And we're like, wow, that was amazing. Did you see what he did there? Do you see how they talk to each other? Do you see how they're parenting? Do you see these things, right? This is how God feels about us. Like, look at my kids. Look how much they're growing. He doesn't hold this like little prize over our heads and be like, I'm so frustrated with them. They just don't get it. He's full of grace. But we have to stay in the maturing process. Why? Because the point is to attain the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. And if we're so arrogant that we think we've somehow reached a level of the fullness of Christ, we need to zip back to the reason that God's called us to serve and to be humble, because we haven't reached the full measure of Christ. It's not possible. I think
the more we serve, we get to verse 14, which the more we serve, the more we're humble, the more we do this.
I see what you did there. I was going to verse 14, but thank you. Okay, yes. So we're unified for maturity, and we're unified for a singular purpose. And, I think this is where the trust issue comes into play in our spiritual journey. I think we have trouble saying yes because deep down there are areas that we just don't trust God with. Like, I will serve you over here. You can have all of this. This is great. But I don't want to give you full control of this thing over here, which we don't consciously think that because then we realize how bad we are. But it's embedded. So there's the things that we hold on really tight to that we don't want to give. And maturity is trusting that God will protect us in those unknown yeses, right? In those unknown difficult spaces, in those seasons of suffering or seasons of uncertainty or seasons of just growing pains, right? So here's verse 14. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Protection. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, Christ. So it's very interesting. This phrase, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there, that's one word in the Greek. And it has this idea of a surge, like in the ocean. It's like an engulfing. I'm engulfed with confusion if I'm not mature. Makes sense. That's why kids need parents, right? That's why the church needs pastors, elders, teachers, right? I become engulfed by the surges of gossip, of false teaching, of personality, you name it, right? We all know what happens in the church and in the world. I get confused by theology because I'm on TikTok and they say this, and then I go to church and they say this, and then I happen to read a Bible verse and I'm like, well, that seems really judgy. I don't know what that's all about. I don't have discernment if I'm not in a process of maturing. And I'm not maturing if I'm not leaning into saying yes. So while I'm serving, right, while our kids are raking against their will, they are maturing,
Yeah.
right? They're learning that these things are important. We work together. No, we don't hit our brothers with the rake. The leaves go in the bag eventually. The one kid doesn't sit down and do nothing while the other two do the work. Like there's a, game playing, working, whatever. There's a maturing process that happens when we serve together and when we live together and when we share together. And the uncomfortableness of maturity always comes out in those seasons because we realize how selfish we are. This is the one beautiful thing about kids going to college. I know those of you that just put your kids, took them to the dorm rooms, like, yes, it's rough. It's rough on a mom.
There might be some parents here who can't wait for that first day.
Okay, which is true, but I'm going to
how
tell you
about
when
for
it
like
happens.
regular school? Like it keeps leading up. Why don't you take them today?
All right, I'm almost done, so hold on. So it's really hard, but there is this one beautiful thing that after they've been there for a few months or 6, until Christmas and they come home, they're like, wow, I had no idea that other kids don't know how to blank. I had no idea that other kids have parents who do blank. And you're like, yes.
Soak it in.
Soak it in. This is the one compliment I'm going to get. And it's covert, but I'm taking it. It's a compliment. They realize, right, that they have been in a relationship that has been for their protection and their growth and their maturity, and they're becoming the fullness of who God designed them to be. But it takes work.
Yeah, and it's not just like keeping away from gossip or keeping away from doctrine. It's like keeping away from like what's going on in my own life, right? Like that's distracting. What's happening? How do I know I'm not wanting that because of like my past hurts or my things? Or how do I know I'm doing this? How do I know? How do I know? How do I know? Well, the more you serve, the more it multiplies in you that you grow. And guess what? Then the body grows. And now we're all encouraging. We're all strengthening. We're all moving together. And scripture says that Paul is saying the more you do this, you're not tossed back and forth. The more this is your answer. When someone comes and tells you about, oh, I don't like that personality, or I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I don't know. If I were in charge, I'd be doing this. You'd be like, here's your answer. I don't have time for that. You know why? Because you're busy serving. Because we got a job to do here. I'm not worried about how they're doing it or whatever. That's not my role. God did not give me grace for that role. So, but he needs to give me grace to be able to do this role. So I can say, I don't have time for that. In fact, we should all practice that right now. So, I don't have time for that. Say it.
I don't have time for that.
And then when we do that, here's lastly what happens, that we are built for growth. Verse 16, from him the whole body joined and held together by every supporting ligament grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its what? Work. As you do the work, God is not only growing you, he's showing you this is what you're built for. This is what I imagined. I imagined you serving with me. I imagined you joining me. I imagined you coming to dad with it to work. And I imagined you being a part of the family and being a part of growing it. I wanted you to be a part of that. I want to bless you with greater service and more opportunities. I want to pour my blessing out on you and say, this is a new season and this is what I've got for you. And we trust God to say, God, I'll say yes. I'll say yes. I'll say yes.
If we stop saying yes, we stop hearing his voice. It's not because he's not still calling us or inviting us, but we're hearing all that noise, right? The deceitful scheming, the confusion. We hear the noise and we don't hear the call anymore. And so we're, oh, I don't know, I need to pray about this. And I pray about something for years and years about what God is directing me to do, and I don't hear the answer. It's not because God's not speaking. Maybe I've stopped saying yes, and so he's just waiting for me. The yes is...
I love that. Hold on. I love that.
Go ahead.
Because you just said, maybe God's waiting without realizing it. Maybe you've been waiting on God. You've been waiting for him to call you, waiting for him to equip you, waiting for him to grow you. And maybe God's been waiting on you. Maybe God's been waiting on us. And I want to invite the worship team out, because what we really want is our role today is to equip you. You're the body. You're the family. You're our family, who we want to ask God to give grace to and say, God, these are people who are saying, this is my next yes. I'm saying yes to you, God. If you say the words, I'll say next to you. But while I'm waiting, I'll be working and growing. While I'm waiting, I'm going to do the call that you got in front of me. While I'm waiting for that next, I'm going to be equipped in what I'm doing. While I'm waiting, I'm going to be building and growing and building the body and building my family, because this is my family. And so Sue and I want to invite you into a time to say, you know what? Everything we just described, I said she was my yes 36 years ago. And for 36 years, we've been serving together. We've been serving together. And maybe you don't have that a part of your story, but you could have your yes to part of this morning. Because it all started with the first yes. It all started with me saying, okay, there's a need. Went to my youth pastor, said, hey, what I do? Here's what you do. I don't need to make a decision. I don't even know what's needed. Just tell me, I'll do it. Some of you are like, you've been doing it for a while and you got some discernment. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We want to invite you into this moment right now to say your next yes to God. So here's what I want to do. I want you to invite you to stand. And as the worship team leads us, anytime during this song, if God moves in you, sometimes we need a physical action to an internal process to mark a moment. And maybe not all of you need this, and that's okay. Maybe not all of you are feeling moved to do this, and that's okay. But we would love to pray with some of you who are saying, you know what? God, I just want to declare this. I want to commit myself to say whatever my next yes is, I'm ready. I'm ready to give it. I'm ready to give it. Maybe it's just yes, keep doing what you're doing. Maybe it's yes, changing it. Maybe it's yes to serving in kids ministry, or serving in the choir, or serving as a greeter, or serving as in our guest welcome center. Maybe it's a yes in walking with someone and getting involved in outreach. Maybe it's a yes to serving in our thrift store. Maybe it's a yes to being able to drive people and go pick them up for church and serve them. Maybe it's a yes in your life, but God knows what it is, and he's wanting you. Maybe you've been waiting on God and he's been waiting on you. And this is your moment right now. So anytime during this worship song, I want you to come up here. I want you to stand up here, ready to say yes. And then Sue and I are going to come back, and we're going to pray a prayer of dedication and a prayer of commitment to, I hope, impart to you the gift of serving and growing that Paul's talking about today. So God, this is your moment. Invite those who you desire to invite. Invite them right now in Jesus' name.